All right, for this one, we're undertaking what you might call an intellectual salvage mission. We're digging up a worldview that was pretty much buried on purpose, pushed into the shadows because, well, it was just too uncomfortable. We're about to crack open a forbidden book, the Ledger of the Great Evening.
Our whole journey starts with this one kind of cryptic line. The horizon is a circle. Just let that sink in for a second. It's not some finish line you're racing towards, no, it's a boundary that you've built yourself, a perfect reflection of your own inner limits. This single idea, it's the key that unlocks everything we're about to get into.
And that leads us to this really provocative question, the one at the very heart of this whole thing. Forget about some future apocalypse. What if the spiritual end, this great evening, isn't coming? What if it's already here? What if we're all just living in the quiet twilight of a world that's already reached its spiritual stasis? That's the incredibly unsettling idea behind the parable we're going to walk through today. Okay, so the curtain rises. Act 1. We find ourselves in a place called the city of Ash Hues. Now, this isn't just some location on a map. It's a living symbol. It's what happens to a society when it reaches the absolute end game of comfort-seeking, a place where the human spirit of striving has just withered away.
The air in this city is described as being thick with a sweet gray dust. This stuff poisons all the wells, but it's not a literal toxin, you know? It's a metaphor for a deep, soul-level apathy. It's guided by a so-called prince of sloth who whispers in your ear to always, always play it safe. It's basically decay itself, but it's a comfortable, sweet-tasting poison that everyone drinks willingly.
And in a place like this, potential itself just dies on the vine. Any spark of creativity, any ambition for greatness, what the text calls roses, it all just crumbles into ash. And why? Because real growth demands a struggle, right? It means you might fail. But the people here, they would rather lower the tightrope of life until it's flat on the ground than ever risk a fall. So who lives in this city? They're called the long-tired. And that name says it all, doesn't it? They just exist in this kind of sleepy, hollow agreement with each other. There are no big arguments, no passionate fights. There's just this quiet, collective, hollow sigh. It's like they've found the happiness of the grave, trading the messy, beautiful chaos of life for the simple peace of a broken clock that doesn't have to tell time anymore. So this brings us to the city's core philosophy, the Great Refusal. And what's really fascinating here is how this is defined. It's that precise moment when an entire society just collectively decides that the dangerous, difficult process of becoming is, well, it's just too much work. This refusal is so total. The text says even a theoretical machine, an overman of brass, saw the trap and just locked its own gears in protest. This isn't a will to power, it's a will to nap.
Then we get to Act 2, and this quiet decay is shattered. A new figure arrives, and he's not a hero, not in any way we'd recognize. He's the soothsayer, the herald of destruction, and he's carrying a truth that's about to absolutely obliterate the city's hollow peace.
This soothsayer isn't showing up with solutions or comfort. He's wielding a forbidden magic, a kind of intellectual power that's been suppressed for one simple reason. It reveals an ugly truth. This is a magic that isn't designed to heal you. It's designed to force you into a brutal, honest look at yourself.
And this leads to an incredible concept, Ficthia necromancy. Forget about raising the dead. This is about reanimating the living. It forces the long-tired to finally see that the world around them, this polished silver floor they walk on, is just reflecting the stagnant ceiling of their own soul. The world seems like a tasteless broth, not because the world is meaningless, but because the person looking at it is empty.
And this is how the soothsayer proves his point. He holds up this cursed mirror and shows everyone that the mountain they always dreamed of climbing, it was never an external obstacle. The peak was just a reflection of the valley they refused to leave. Every single one of their limits was self-imposed. The horizon really is a circle.
What the soothsayer is revealing here is a kind of spiritual journey in reverse. It's called the metamorphoses of fatigue. So instead of the spirit evolving upwards, here the striver, the one who aims for the sharp peaks, just collapses. They become the broken camel, but they're not carrying the heavy burdens of creation anymore. They're just carrying the dead weight of their own exhaustion, sinking back into the soft earth of doing nothing.
So it begs the question, right? Why would anyone choose to live like this? And even more, why is the soothsayer's truth so forbidden? Well, Act 3 takes us right to the city's center of power, the marketplace of distractions. And it's here we find out that this stagnation, it's not an accident. It's architecture. The city of Ash Hues is, in fact, a gilded cage, and it was built on purpose by the dominant institutions. You do a little digging, and you find their motive. They were terrified that if people actually acknowledged their own long tiredness, the entire moral and legal system, which is all built on the idea of personal responsibility, would just crumble into dust.
And this is basically the blueprint for how you build that cage. First, you give people wax fruit, things that look nourishing and real but are just hiding an existential void. Then you censor any inconvenient truths. You call the soothsayer's message a heresy, or maybe just a jester's prank. You keep everyone docile with a never-ending stream of tiny pleasures. And then, the most cynical move of all, you co-opt the very idea of striving and turn it into a performance, a shield to hide the deep apathy underneath.
It all really comes down to the city's unofficial motto: better to be a stone than a witness. Think about that. It's better to be an unfeeling object, to choose the soft earth and do nothing, than it is to actually bear witness to the difficult, terrifying, honest truth of what it means to be alive. Safety trumps awareness, every time.
And that takes us to our final act. The soothsayer's revelation has landed. The cage has been revealed for what it is. The ledger of the great evening is now open for all to see, and a choice has to be made.
And here's where we see the soothsayer in a totally new light. He's not just a herald of destruction. He's a shadow savior. He's not offering some gentle path to salvation. He offers the harsh, terrifying, but absolutely necessary truth. He doesn't break the cage for you. He just shows you the architecture and forces you to see that you are your own jailer.
So, is there a way out? According to the text, yes, but it's a hard road. First, you have to acknowledge the abyss. You've got to look right into the void that the marketplace tries to cover up with all its shiny distractions. Second, you have to consciously reject immunity. You have to give up the guarantee of safety and accept that struggle is just part of the deal. And third, you have to get back on your own tightrope and start walking, embracing the risk instead of settling for the floor.
And that's where our parable ends, leaving us with one final, unavoidable question. The soothsayer has opened the ledger, he's shown us the city of Ash, the gilded cage, and the steep path out. So now the choice becomes personal. In the face of this great evening, will you be the fire that burns against the twilight, or will you just settle for being the cold, comfortable ash? The ledger is open, the entry is yours to write.